Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review video. Now today we are finally going to be taking a look at none other than Miles Morales himself. Now I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They have 12-month installment plans and a points-based reward system. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe and bell notification icon, plus check out the join button for more info on Justin's Collection Plus, the channel membership. What we are going to do now though is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. Here of course we have the box art and it is so much fun. A massive image of Miles front and center on a super vibrant and colourful background, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and then Miles Morales. On the side, another image of him, this time in his battle suit. Then on the back, a huge image of Kingpin with a bunch of warnings. Now if you do slide off the top cover, you are treated to a bunch of product shots. They showcase the various different looks, plus the diorama backdrop, which is why this box is so large. On the side of the box, an image of the figure himself. Then if we do flip it over, you do get a sneak preview of Miles inside. But we're not here for sneak previews, we're here to review Miles himself. Now ever since Gwen arrived, yeah, I've been pretty darn excited to get Miles in hand. Is he going to be as well received as Gwen? Well, we'll have to wait and see. First in-hand impressions, though, are suitably positive. What we are going to do now is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Here we have all the parts and pieces, minus the diorama backdrop, which we will take a look at separately in just a second. Starting off with the display base first, it's the Age of Ultron shape, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse up top with a bunch of vibrant colours in the background. Miles Morales up front, a dynamic flight pole with a smaller spring-loaded waist clamp. Because Miles doesn't have the biggest body in the world, they have opted for this smaller one. Do be careful as they tend to dig into the suit over time. Some of the simpler accessories come in the form of 6 stickers and a sheet of paper that says "From your friendly neighborhood, Spider-Man." Now the stickers themselves do say "Hello, my name is Spider-Man," "Hello, my name is Miles," and then Miles down below, except this time it's in a slightly more stylized font. Unlike the Young Rich Toys version, you can't actually take the Halloween costume out of the bag and pop it on the figure. It is printed on fabric on the inside, but it's just one layer. It's not a real wearable costume. You do have the Spider-Man up top, front and back, and the bag is of course translucent plastic. We do get the usual array of Spidey webs, some shorter ones with some thicker ends, some thinner ones that do have a little connection point to peg on to this funnel attachment. The funnel is done in the exact same style as usual, cast in translucent plastic with some silver detail on the surface. You also get the right angle one so you can have Spidey swinging. Now unfortunately, you don't get my favourite, which is the spooled up version. I don't exactly know why they decided to omit it. I was absolutely expecting to see it here. For some of the most unique accessories I've seen in a while, we have this rubbery neck cover and some rubbery ankle covers. You do have some socks that can be slid on and off, and they are cast in this very stretchy rubbery plastic. These simply slide over his neck and limbs, and don't worry, you'll see how they come into play a little bit later on in the video. You also get a spray paint can and a hand specifically designed to hold onto it. The can itself does have some printed detail on the surface. As you can see, it says "Blind Easy Mixture." You can remove the cap and it is painted in a nice chrome silver. Now if you do slot it into his hand, his finger does nicely rest on top of the nozzle. The hand itself is super geometric, which of course perfectly suits the style of Into the Spider-Verse. Next up, you do get 2 completely different Miles Morales head sculpts. Now I personally like them both equally, but I'm sure you'll have your preferences. Let me know down below. The one on the right is slightly goofier with the raised eyebrows. I really like those frown lines that have been painted in, whereas the one on the other side is slightly more stoic. Now the hair is really nicely sculpted with a ton of texture on the surface, whereas the other has a mask that's been pulled back over the top. Now the eyes are permanently attached, but they look great. The red is super vibrant, you've got this blue outline, and a nice pearlescent white for the lenses. But that's not all. There is a bit of a party trick. If you remove the mask from one head sculpt, you can probably see where this is going. You can interchange the pieces onto either sculpt. If you want the slightly more stoic expression with the hair, you can do that, and swap the mask onto the other. I absolutely love this. More options are definitely worth having and including with a figure, so I'm glad Hot Toys decided to have swappable pieces. Now you can see a very minor seam line on the side of his hair, but for me, that's not a huge deal. But of course, this wouldn't be a Spidey figure without a masked head sculpt. It's fully sculpted, meaning there's no weird seam lines up on top, although there is going to be a slight mismatch between the sculpt and the texture of the fabric suit. We will of course discuss that when we get the figure out here. The web lines are fully sculpted and indented in, and you have a bunch of these little zigzags printed on the surface. Now the shape is rather unique, almost alien-like. It's rather long, quite stumpy, and very wide at the temples. We will have to see what this looks like once again when we pop it on the figure. Now you do have multiple interchangeable lenses ranging from fully wide open to much more exaggerated and slightly more squinted. They are all painted really nicely with those same pearlescent lenses as we saw on the pulled back mask, plus that super vibrant red outside edge with the blue panel lining. By far the biggest letdown of the set for me are the Nikes. Unfortunately, Hot Toys decided, no, we don't have to fork out the Nike licensing, we're just going to do unlicensed Nikes. Omit the symbol, but get the mold right, and we're going to be just fine. Unfortunately, Hot Toys, no, it's not just fine, it's not accurate, you need to pay those licensing fees to get everything as accurate as possible. The sculpt work is on point, including some tread detail underneath. They are a rather squishy material, so they just slide over his existing shoes. Now, the right side, or I should say Miles's left side when you have it on the figure, does have untied laces, but you can remove said laces and bring in a separate piece to have the laces fully tied up. Now, I haven't decided which way I'm going to go, but I'm probably going to have it tied up so they match on either side. Although for some reason on this one it's painted white in the center, whereas on the swap out piece it isn't. Also, the swap out piece is matte, whereas the sculpted laces are glossy. Now, honestly, I was expecting something more along the lines of the ones we got with Young Rich Toys. These are by far the winners here. They also have the untied laces, but they have all the branding, and they have those gorgeous icy soles underneath. Do let me know what you think about the shoes Hot Toys decided to include though, down in the comments below. To go along with the Nikes though, you do get a bunch of civilian clothing. Starting off with his sweatpants first, they are cinched at the top and down around his ankles. They do have a lighter blue line that runs along the edge. Now, funnily enough, they did include some booty padding, because otherwise, I guess they would have thought Miles wasn't well endowed enough. Now, he does come with multiple other layers of clothing, with an outer jacket done in a nice sort of turquoise blue, and you do have some wires. There is a logo on one side that's left completely blank. Now, the hoodie is rather interesting because it doesn't have any sleeves. The reason they did that is because they didn't want to bulk up the arms and possibly have limited articulation. The same thing can be said for the white t-shirt, no sleeves. And then of course, lastly, you do have his shorts. They're an interesting material with a bunch of texture and tight weave on the surface, plus a real metal belt buckle on the belt. Once again, we will be trying all of this on him a little bit later on. Lastly, you do get a full array of Spidey gloved hands and 3 ungloved ones. These are very geometric with some sculpted in nails, and they are painted in a nice matte finish. whereas the gloved ones do have those web lines indented, the little zigzags on the surface, and a very nice gradient between the brighter red and the darker black of the suit. What we are going to do now though is get the cardboard diorama backdrop out here and take a closer look. Here we have said backdrop, and yes, it is made of cardboard. It's super lightweight, meaning it's not going to put any stress on your glass shelves. Now the instructions tell you how to assemble this. It's relatively straightforward. Down below, this kind of looks like the outline of the display base, because it is. The base simply slides in and locks in position. Up top you have a couple of Spidey heads, Miles, then a massive Into the Spider-Verse Miles Spidey logo front and center that kind of looks as though it's been spray painted. More Spidey heads, Thwip on one side, Boom on the other, and Zap up top. I personally love the onomatopoeia, but if you don't, you can simply opt to remove them. What we are going to do now though is get Miles himself out here and take a closer look. Here we have him standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. And yeah, that's 100% Into the Spider-Verse Miles. I know it's still early in the video, but Hot Toys, y'all have nailed it. Don't worry though, we will be trying out the various different outfit options in just a second, cause I'm curious to see which one is my favourite, and in turn which one is your favourite. Don't forget to let me know in the comments. Now the body is very slim, but it is accurate to how Miles appeared in the movie, and I'm fairly certain it's a brand new custom body for this figure. And I don't think Hot Toys would have normally invested in a new body, but after all, the movie this guy is based off did win an Oscar, and there is a second one on the way, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get another Miles for the second movie. But of course, we will have to wait and see. What we are going to do now though is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. Here we have him up close and personal. Now I thought we'd start off with the civilian look first and then move on to the other options. I've split it into 3 distinct looks. Starting off with the head sculpt, I really like the way this sits on the body. It doesn't sit too high, nor does it sit too low, plus it looks bang on to the animation. He's got a bit of a smile, his eyebrows are slightly raised, and that hair looks gorgeous. Now you can pop on the hood if you so choose, but because his hair is so big, the hood does sit very high. It's fully wired, and so too is the front of the hoodie and the front of the jacket. Like we discussed earlier, there aren't any sleeves on the t-shirt and the hoodie, and that means that everything is nice and slim and hugs the body perfectly. Now, if I didn't otherwise tell you, or you didn't know that there was a full Spidey suit underneath, you probably wouldn't pick it because everything looks almost seamless. Like the figure was always designed to look like this. And I think one of the key reasons for that is this rubbery neck piece. The skin tone match between the head sculpt is, of course, bang on, just like you'd expect, and it does have a little bit of definition for his Adam's apple, so it doesn't just look like a smooth rubber sock. Then coming down to his pants, they are a nice stretchy fabric, because they are sweatpants, and down below you have a little bit more of that soft rubber for the ankles. Now you can pull the socks down if you want to expose even more of it, but honestly, that is a super convincing effect. Then the socks themselves do nicely sit just underneath the lip of the shoes. Now, you all already know I don't love these shoes. They are obviously unbranded and a little bit tricky to pop on. But when you do have them on there, yeah, they complete the look very nicely. Plus, they are slightly rubbery, so if you do bend the toe, you still get access to that toe articulation. Now, I am hoping that someone makes a set of decals to add the Nike swoosh, but for now, it's simply not present. Now, if you do want to know what he looks like in one of the other looks, this one might just be my personal favourite look of the 3. You can now see the battle suit with that big red Spidey logo front and centre and the webbing down below. but you still retain all of the layers plus the wiring from before. Now you can pop the hood on if you so choose, but for me, I prefer to leave it off for this particular look. Now, if you wanted to use the other Miles head sculpt, you can absolutely do that. Don't forget you can swap the hair and the mask between the two in case you want to chop and change for the various different outfits. Now, the jacket and the hoodie are identical, but now you can see that awesome red logo. It looks as though it's been spray painted on the surface, but don't worry, it hasn't. It's a rubbery overlay. It's been screen printed. The material for the suit is nice and stretchy, but more on that in just a second. The shorts are all fabric, as we've already discussed, with that real metal belt buckle, and the belt actually works, so if you decide you want it a little bit looser so it can sit lower, you can definitely adjust it. Down below you do get another sneak preview of the battlesuit, but once again, these shoes. I opted to leave the laces off this one because it falls off on mine constantly. It's super annoying. And now that I've had to pop them on and take them off twice, I really don't want to have to do it again. It's a downright chore. But for the last look of the three, which is of course his full-on Spidey suit, and I absolutely love the red and black. It's going to pop in the display. So too will the big honkin' Spidey eyes. Now, if you wanted to, you could switch them out for slightly different ones. There are a ton of different options, so it's entirely up to you. Now, I do apologize if you don't like the snap transitions. It's literally the easiest way to swap out these smaller pieces without having to wrangle everything on camera. Now, the head sculpt is fully sculpted, as we discussed earlier, with the indented web lines. Now, you do have those little zigzags printed on top, which do nicely tie in to the suit itself, which is of course all fabric. Now, instead of having the web lines indented or raised here, they are just screen printed, just like the Spidey logo front and back. Now, the back one does look a little bit more haphazard as compared to the front one, then again it's kind of running down here as well. It very clearly is meant to look as though Miles has taken a spray can and sprayed it on. The effect is super convincing. Now, coming down to the hands, they are a little bit lighter than the main suit. But to be totally honest, it doesn't really bug me. You can see a nice feathering to the red as it blends into the grey, and the same thing can be said all the way down here for the feet. The red sections are once again screen printed, but do be careful when you're trying to slide those Nikes on. As you can see, it is starting to get scuffed up because the friction of pulling those shoes over these feet is pulling away some of this screen printed material. Plus, you can see how slim those feet really are. In fact, that can kind of be said for the entire body. It's super slim, but at the same time, super accurate. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have Hot Toys Miles and Hot Toys Gwen. Now don't worry, the third-party comparisons are coming up in just a second. As for these two, they stand at pretty much the exact same height, which for me works perfectly fine. And I think they look great standing together. They're both on super slim and animated style bodies, but that kind of works. It captures the look from the film. Now, I haven't decided as of yet if I'm going to have Miles with his mask on or with his mask off. Do let me know which you prefer down below. Next up, here we have the entire team as it stands. Now, I'm still hoping we get a Penny Parker and an SPDR and Spider-Man Noir, but for the moment, we have the Young Rich Toys Peter B. Parker and the Hot Toys Spider-Ham. And as you can see, they also look really good together. Now, I was hoping for a fully articulated Spider-Ham, but the little static guy is still very, very cute. Peter B. Parker is extremely tall, and he's on a really weird choice of body. I am hoping that for the next film, Hot Toys decides to make Peter, but for now, Young Rich Toys is going to have to do. Lastly, here we have the Battlesuit Miles from Young Rich Toys. And even though there are some similarities, there are a ton of differences. I have left his Nikes on. I know they're not supposed to be there, but I did want to show you that they have the proper Nike swoosh. And no, unfortunately, they aren't compatible with the Hot Toys figure. The Hot Toys shoes slide over an existing foot, whereas the Young Rich Toys ones connect via a ball joint. Now, the bodies are completely different. Hot Toys is far lankier, the proportions are better and, in my mind, more accurate to the movie, whereas Young Rich Toys is slightly shorter and a little bit thicker, especially in the thighs. The suits themselves are also very, very different. They both have the little squiggly lines on the surface, but the Young Rich Toys ones are far more pronounced and the web lines are grey rather than black. Plus, the red sections are slightly less saturated. Overall, I prefer the Hot Toys figure. Young Rich Miles was a really good placeholder, but now the Hot Toys ones here, to be honest, I just can't stop looking at it. Just going over articulation. Now, bear in mind, this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I am willing to go. Now, starting off with the head sculpt, it is on a ball joint at the base of the head, and another at the base of the neck. Looking forward to there, going back to there, swivel and pivot side to side. The arms will go up to there, they will go forward and back, butterfly joint at the shoulder that also hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow that gets you way past 90, and then a regular 1/6 scale wrist peg. The torso will crunch forward on two separate joints, one at the midsection and another at the waist. Going back to there, swivel and pivot side to side. The legs will go forward on very clicky ratchets to there, going out to there, swivel at the upper thigh, double bend at the knee that does get you past 90, a hinge and swivel down here for the ankle, plus toe articulation. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is this unsightly bunching for the ankle. Now yes, you can work the suit up, but over time it tends to slide down back into the crevice right above his foot. The second annoying thing are the shoes. Hot Toys, come on, if you're going to include Jordans, slap the Nike logo on the side and pay the licensing fee. These are technically unlicensed Nikes, and we all know Hot Toys doesn't like unlicensed figures. Now, the second part of this annoying thing is they are super difficult to slide onto his feet. They should have come apart and clamped over the foot or had a different way of attaching, because this, for me, just doesn't work. The third annoying thing is the bunching up here at the shoulders. That's just because there's excess fabric to allow for articulation, so when you move them up, it's nice and smooth. But when you pull the arms down, that bunching immediately reappears. And for me, that number 1 looks very unsightly, and number 2 means there's going to be a permanent crease there over time. The first cool thing is the choice of custom body, the super thin fabric for the suit itself, and the posability. That means this guy can pull off some super dynamic, super iconic, and straight up classic Spidey poses. The second cool thing is how you attach the web effects to the figure himself. Now, normally you'd swap out the palm piece, it would connect there, or you'd have some kind of ring that goes around the wrist peg. But oh no, not this time. Hot Toys were completely redesigning the wrist peg, so they thought, why not add a channel into the wrist peg itself where you can slide the web into? That means you do get maximum range of motion out of the wrist, but also when you pull the sleeve down, the effect is pretty much entirely seamless. The third cool thing is the diorama backdrop. Yes, you have to assemble it yourself, yes, it's made of cardboard, and yes, it's huge. But that means it's absolutely going to stand out in the display. Miles himself is a rather small figure, so giving him a nice, vibrant diorama backdrop that you can display him in front of, yeah, is a very nice touch. Just wrapping up on Hot Toys Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse Miles Morales. Now, going into this, I was really excited, but also I had one key question on my mind. Is this figure better than the Young Rich Toys version? And to cut a long story short, Yes, he is. This is the superior Miles. Starting off with the body, it not only looks better, but it also moves better. It's far more proportionate and more accurate to the film. Plus, my Young Rich Toys Miles had a tendency of toppling over constantly. This figure doesn't seem to have that issue. Now, on top of the body, you of course have his Spidey suit. The material is super thin, it's super lightweight, meaning you can see all the definition underneath, and you can pose the heck out of him. Now, there is some screen printing on the surface, so I wouldn't leave him in those crazy poses for a super long period of time. You can also pop on the civilian outfit or mix and match to create your own ultimate version of Miles. The choice is yours. You also have multiple different eyepieces and multiple different head sculpts that you can swap the hairpiece or the mask between. Once again, it's all down to you. For me, this guy is the clear winner. Young Rich Toys Miles has served his time admirably, but this figure is definitely going to replace him. Now, I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They have 12-month installment plans and a points-based reward system. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe and bell notification icon so you're notified as soon as a brand new Hot Toys review goes live on the channel. Also, check out the join button for more info on Justin's Collection Plus if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.